Gonzaga Nation SI continues on. Dan Dickau alongside another Zag, Adam Morrison. Adam, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we keep talking about upcoming games and previous games, and so we're going to preview this week's games. It's hard to keep track of the weeks because of the COVID pauses of the first 2 weeks. So let's just say it's the LMU Portland week. Okay. That's the easiest way to put it.
That is the easiest way.
Yeah. At least they're both home games for Gonzaga.
Yeah.
One game's on CBS Sports Network. I'll actually be calling that game on Thursday. Saturday's game will be regional. You've got the two games for the call on radio. Mm-hmm. Don't know much about UP. I've already called Portland or Loyola Marymount this year. Mm-hmm. What's your take? What do you know about them?
I know they were trending upwards last year in the COVID year. It was the first year from the Dunlap years, and I think the Dunlap years were fine. I think what I saw from the team last year was they were trending more to a joyful basketball experience, if that makes sense. You can just tell they were...
Yeah, it does. Remembering how they played under Dunlap.
How they played. And so what I've understood to be this year is they had those same beliefs and same... excitement for the season, and just kind of hasn't panned out. They're 9-7, I think 2-2 in league. Eli Scott's a fantastic player, been there forever, face up big. But I think they just haven't put it together. But they play a much more up-tempo style than they have in years past, and that's obviously better to call. It's better for us to play because that matches us.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were picked to finish fourth. Okay, and Tom Hudson said this on the radio. It's easy to be picked finished eighth and then finish fourth. Mm-hmm. Now you're picked to finish fourth and you're having a bad season. So I think that's what they're trying to figure out is, okay, last year you looked pretty good. You have good players. You get Eli Scott back another season because of the COVID deal, like your best player, an all-league player, tough matchup for anybody. Can you back it up? And they really haven't this year. It's not me trying to hammer them, but it's just look at their record. So it'll be interesting to see what type of team we see. They've always been super physical. I know that game always made Fewy nervous, especially down in LMU.
Yeah, they were always physical.
Always physical.
They had the 7'3" Sweden guy, like
Swedish
literally
guy, elbows.
Yeah, nobody could go through the paint without getting clocked.
Yeah, I mean, and it was one of those games where, you coach youth basketball, and sometimes you get to hammer into teams. You're like, hey, go off two even on fast breaks, right? Go off, and it was that type of game. Like you get in the paint, you're going off two. So yeah, they've like I said, they were picked to finish fourth and just quite haven't put it together yet this year.
So you talk about Eli Scott, and yeah, he's fifth-year senior, got that extra year of COVID. Mm-hmm. He does so many things for that team. He's got an interesting backstory in that he basically grew up with the Ball family. Yeah. And they played at Chino Hills High School, and if you know anything about that high school program, they were scoring like 110 points a game in high school.
It's crazy.
How many points did your Meade high school teams score?
We were probably in the mid to upper 70s, I imagine.
For high school is a ton.
And there was no shot clock back then.
Yeah.
Okay, so that part was, the hardest part for us was always we had to press, even though we were good at it, but we probably didn't have like the athletes. So like if you just walked in, you'd be like, well, why are you guys a pressing team? Like, well, people are going to hold it. But yeah, like 110 is crazy. Eli's a good player, man. He's a face-up big. He's a little bit undersized, probably 6'5", decent around the rim as far as up fakes and jump hooks and stuff like that. Can shoot it. Not a great passer. That's always been the thing with him is once he gets his head down and moving, if you can come and help, he's not making the right decisions. Maybe he's gotten better this year, but that was kind of how we guarded him, kind of dared him. Go ahead and drive it, and there's going to be a rake.
Because he's a willing passer, but it's not always on target, which is a big thing.
I disagree with the willing part.
Okay.
Yeah, there's been some games
well, he's had one triple-double in his career, I guess. But.
Okay, yeah. But it was, like against us, he's trying to get his.
True.
It's what I've seen. And so, like I said, though, he's a matchup problem. And he's been an all-league guy, I think, 3 times. Yeah. So, I'm not sitting here saying he's not a good basketball player.
100%.
It's just when you play him, you kind of know what you're going to get. He's going to score in the 18 to 22s. Try not to let him get the 30, obviously. He's going to put foul pressure on the drive. Guard him with a step back, a step back off of him, make him shoot a jumper with a contest. When he drives, overload and help make them,
Yeah.
go ahead and make that extra pass. And you can tell sometimes it's like, I don't want to make this pass. Here you go. You know what I mean? And
or sometimes guys want to make the pass, but they want to make it late. They want to hold on to it
as late as possible. Yeah.
Do I still have a scoring opportunity?
Or they only throw it if it's a assist, if it's going to be an assist.
You got a teammate like that. I don't know if you want me to share the name who I know. Okay.
That's fine.
But I coached him for 1 year. If you do the math, you can figure it out. I was mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It's like, you're only going to pass it if it leads to an assist?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. Well, they also have a second-year coach in Stan Johnson, who I think is a really good coach. I mean, he was at Marquette with Wojciechowski for a while. Mm-hmm. Takes over a tough LMU situation last year. Like you said, they were predicted 8th, got 4th. They've had injuries this year. What's the hardest thing in your eyes for a new coach in the WCC?
To be honest, I think it's how much the university wants to allow players to get in academically. I mean, I
think that's USD's biggest issue.
I think that's why Gonzaga has made this jump in the last 20 years. It's not like we're letting Prop 8 kids in, and I'm saying that nicely. This is the only way to describe it. But like, some of these universities don't let like a kid that's still a smart kid, probably like a 3.2, but he can't score in the SAT. He ain't getting into some of these universities. So then it's like, doesn't mean he's like a bad kid or has issues or like flunked high school. Like, he's still a smart kid. I was a 3.3 student, I believe, and scored, barely made the deal for the SAT. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, Gonzaga got me in, but some of these other universities in the WCC won't. So I think that's the hardest part. That's just maybe me on the outside perspective, but that's what I've heard from other people at other universities in West Coast Conference that says like, well, you guys, are a little bit more lax. Doesn't, like I said, it's not like we're letting in anybody. It's not a JUCO, but it's also like, hey, if they're good kids and smart and they still make the acquirement for the SAT, like, why can't they have an opportunity to go to one of these universities?
Well, a big part of what I've heard about that is like the kids that Gonzaga has, I don't want to say made an exception to. Yeah. They've followed through and gotten their degree. So there's been
exactly.
No,
that's
like,
what I'm saying. Sometimes you have to sometimes people need an opportunity.
Yeah.
And if you have a gut feeling or understand where their background is, they're going to show you that you were right.
In a couple of the other schools I've heard, they had a couple early instances where they made an exception and it didn't work out. And so the school no longer says, we're going to help you with it. And so it's put coaches in tough positions.
Yeah. No, I think that to me, that's the hardest thing. Because you look at some of these universities, especially, Pep down in Malibu, and then obviously USD, San Diego. I mean, it's the most beautiful campus, I think, on, in the conference. And then you go with LMU, you're like, okay, how can you guys not get like the 4th best wing in California and the 3rd best point guard or whatever?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, good players, and be like, hey, you can play at home, man, and be a feature instead of, try to play at USC or UCLA and probably get beat out by a guy that's going to be in the NBA in 2 years. And you might make it, but it might take you 4, whatever. But I think some of it's the academic issues. I may be wrong. Like, that's what I've heard.
Sure.
But, don't kill me if you're like an LMU fan or something, or an administrator. But also it's like, hey, if you want your program to excel, you're going to have to, allow some of these kids an opportunity to earn a degree and prove you right that somebody just needs an opportunity. Yeah. That's not a bad kid. That's not a bad student, but maybe he just doesn't test well, or is 20 points below the grade. Like, okay, let's look the other way here.
Yeah.
But here's another thing, Dan, and I'll get your thoughts on this. Like, do you think some of these schools? I mean, what's the average cost of admission at a WCC? Probably, let's just round it, $45 a year.
I know it's a lot.
Okay,
I wouldn't have been able to go to one of those schools when I was growing up.
Same with my family. So, like, dude, these universities, it's not, and this is not a knock, but like, do they care if they're good at sports? The revenue's still there. That's another thing.
No, that's a very real question, because
who cares?
I mean, a lot of people know Gonzaga what they are now, but we know a little bit or enough about what Gonzaga was in the 90s, where before this basketball program really went on some huge runs, it was kind of questionable if the school was going to keep going.
Yeah, keep the program going, or just be like, hey,
They almost moved to Division III.
Yeah, let's go play Whitworth.
Yeah.
And Whitworth is the same demographic, and it's a great basketball school. I used to go to the games all the time, but it's like, let's just be Division III. Who cares? You know what I mean? And just take a bus and go play in the Tri-Cities and LC State or whatever. You know what I mean? And then you're done. That's it. And so, like, that's what I think is some of the hardest parts. Going back to your original question, what's the biggest difficulty of a new coach in the WCC? I think recruiting for the academic side of it, and then like the want to of the administrations. Doesn't mean they just throw them to the wolves, but also it's like,
got to support them.
You got to support them, and it's got to be one of those things where you garner excitement. But also, like, if you're in LA, you're fighting an uphill fight for entertainment value, right? I mean, like, if you're in LA, there's 10 pro sports teams and a million colleges within 30 miles. Like,
and there's you played for the Lakers. I was with the Clippers for a year. There's so many things to do.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, even if the LMU was really good or Pep, you still gonna like fight hour and a half traffic to go to a game? Like, you got to be a special type of person to be like, yeah, I want to go watch a college basketball game.
Speaking of LA, where'd you live when you were down there?
I was El Segundo. I was right in the jungle right there. It was nice.
That's a great area.
Awesome.
I rented a house in Manhattan Beach. It
was awesome.
3 minutes from the practice facility, 5 minutes from the beach. It was amazing.
Yeah, I was just down the road from practice facilities. I was about like 12-minute drive, and then I was just right from LAX. So like people would call me like, don't even call me like until you're on the baggage claim, because I will be there by the time like you like sit down and catch your breath. Like, I'll pull in. It was awesome. Yeah, it was great. But yeah,
I didn't think I would like living in LA, but I loved it.
But I only stayed in that pocket though.
Yes,
that's the part. That's the kickers. Like you guys tell people.
Sepulveda and what was that other street? Rosecrans.
Yep, Rosecrans, and then Imperial Highway. But like, I always tell people, I'm like, yeah, it was great, but like, I didn't leave that area once I got home from practice. Like, you're not going across town to Hollywood to go have like lunch. Can't. You know what I mean?
Takes forever if you go.
Takes forever. So I loved it too. But yeah, just. These programs are not terrible. We're not saying that, but I think it's an uphill climb that I think some of these universities don't want to attempt to do. Or here's the way I look at it too. They've been browbeat for 15 years. Let's go 15 years by Gonzaga. So some of them are just like, all right, we play Gonzaga tonight. Good job. You know what I mean? Like, when we played, it was a little bit more like, come on.
Yeah, I think the league is great right now. It's at the top.
It's the best it's been at the top forever.
But I think even because we were good, but we weren't dominant in the way these teams are. So you still had the teams in 6th, 7th, 8th place. Like, hey, if we have a night, we got a shot.
Well, we never blew anybody out, and your teams are probably the same. Like, we win by 15.
Blowout. Yeah,
but like, we were always on the floor at the end of the game and had to make free throws. Like now, like Drew Timme, Andrew Nemhard, like sometimes play like 21 minutes. I mean, if I was, this is my last
stats.
Yeah, no, if it was my last few years, I'd be like, hey guys, I wouldn't say this, but it'd be a thought, be like, well, we let them go on an 8-0 run, so it gets down to 22. So Fewey's still nervous, and we can play the last 5 minutes.
Do you ever miss a free throw on purpose to stay in?
Of course, everybody has. Haven't you done that? In your career? Yeah, especially like high school too. Like, I'm not coming out. Miss the second of the second part.
And then you see someone come to the bench, scores table, you squeeze off another quick shot.
Yeah, and you go, exactly. Like, they go shooter, and you're like, nope, brick. And then, you're going to go get another one up. And absolutely. But like I was saying, like our teams, we always were up like 12. So we had to be in the game. Like, we're going to win. But like, all right, Mo and Ravio, you got to make free throws. Like, oh, darn, like
more points.
Yeah, like you have 16 and then you get to 22 and you didn't play great, but it's like, oh, nice game tonight. You had 22 on 15 field goal attempts, and it was like 6 for 15, or you know what I mean? You didn't play good, but then you're like, oh, okay, it looks a lot better. Like,
it does. That's one thing. My son's 15. He's start trying to explain to him and share a little bit more like the nuances of the game. Like, hey. And you get this, like, it's not that hard to average. Someone's going to be like, oh, these guys. If you get to the free throw line once a half, you get one layup a half, you get 1 3 a half. What's that? You're at 14 points already.
Yeah.
Then just get hot.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's really not that complicated. Now, I'm sure somebody's going to be like, oh, Dan and Adam are like, oh, it's easy.
Yeah. Like I always tell when I coach my daughter's team, I'm like, it's not always just making like jumpers. Like you have to like sprint and get layups, like push somebody in the back a little bit and get an offensive rebound. You know what I mean? Like things like that. And then like if you're in the bonus, like learn how to cut and throw your hands underneath. Like if a girl's denying you, just throw your hands underneath. The beep. You know what I mean? Like then you get to the free throw line. So yeah, it's scoring the basketball in that terms is not as difficult. And there's other, scores in the history have talked about the same thing. Like, it's like I just didn't just go out there and hit tough contested jumpers. Like I would sprint and get a layup. And then I would make sure I get to the foul line. And then, like I said, like having a nose for a ball is a skill. Like, okay, I see two guys going for it. It's probably going to get tipped to here. Ooh, I got two layups, and then your stat line goes up. But yeah, it's interesting how, if you've scored the basketball, and I'm sure like quarterbacks and like pitchers are like that too, where there's a way like, guys are like, I can get through 8 innings in high school, like no problem. And I'm like, man, I pitched when I was in first grade and I could barely throw it after like 2 innings. Like, you know what I mean? So like there's a way to manage games, I guess you're saying as a scorer or as like a quarterback or as a pitcher. It's interesting to dive into that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it to me. That's fascinating watching some of those little things during the game, as I'm sure it is for you. But going back to the WCC, moving on to the second opponent this week in University of Portland, that is a program that was, how do I put this, as bad the last 2 years as any team in the WCC since I can remember.
Well, we didn't have to go to their place. That's part of the rules.
Yeah. So Shante Lagan's first year coach has taken that over.
Yeah.
I mean, he was at Eastern, where Eastern Washington was a good Big Sky team, but they were having some financial difficulties where they were talking about moving down to Division III. Yeah. I mean, what are you seeing, or what's your thought process on University of Portland?
Well, I mean, it's obviously a basketball hungry town. Obviously the Blazers are there, and you spend time there, and I did too. And like they have one of the best fan bases in the NBA, win or lose. They have always had it. So like it's a basketball culture down there. So I think there is enough support, talking about what we just did earlier, that they want that program to at least be viable, like finishing 4th, 3rd sometimes. Because they were decent when I was there as well, and that was always a fun game just because a lot of the Zag fans come down. It's easy drive. And I don't blame Shante for leaving Eastern, going down that rabbit hole. If you're getting to the NCAA tournament and top of the Big Sky year in and year out, like playing for a spot, and then they're talking about like literally axing sports in general, you got to move. And I think it's a good opportunity for him to kind of bring back, like I said, you don't have to win the West Coast Conference, but you just get back to being viable and being good, because there is a lot of talent in that area. As you know, you're from that area. So the recruiting aspect is, I think, a little bit easier in the sense of, for a smaller school, that, a similar demographic of school, but like the area, the geography that they're at, or whatever you want to describe it, is easier. So I think they have a better chance to become viable sooner, if that makes sense. And Shante is a good coach.
Yeah, no, I think he's a really good coach. He spaces the floor, a lot of pick and roll actions, shoots a lot of threes. Last question on both of these two teams before we go to a listener question. Most difficult matchup for both LMU and Portland individually for you. And this is funny because I don't remember a single player at LMU when I played against them. And for the University of Portland, it would have been Casey Franson, who was also a Northwest guy, was a big-time shooter. But I can't remember a single player on LMU.
So you're telling me, like, for Gonzaga's team now?
No, for when you played at LMU, who was the toughest opponent on that roster for both LMU and then UP? Because I can't remember anybody.
Portland was the little Jeremiah Dominguez.
Oh, you played against Jeremiah?
Yeah, he was there before he went to Portland State. He was a good player.
Yeah.
He was tough too, and he was kind of, he talked trash. I like playing against him. He was cool.
He was like a middle school kid in Salem. He used to always come to my high school games. So I've known little Jeremiah since he was 12 years old.
Yeah, he was just crafty.
He was a bulldog. He would not back down from
exactly.
anybody.
Like I liked playing against him. It was just fun to play against. I'm not kidding. I don't remember anybody off LMU. I have no clue.
Neither one of us can.
I have no idea. Like, and that's not trying to like make it funny of their show. Like I'm trying to think. I have no clue.
Yeah, that's exactly why I brought that up, because I couldn't remember.
No idea. So yeah, Jeremiah Dominguez is all I can give you for UP, and we had good games against them too. I had a good game against them at home one time, but yeah, that's interesting. I'm drawing a blank. I feel bad too because
I felt awful.
Actually, okay, their big missed. His name's drawing a blank. Their big missed a wide open layup when we played the tournament. The only time it's been played at Gonzaga, and if you really think about it, it really screwed up the arc for that program. Okay, so it's my junior year. We play the West Coast Conference tournament. Remember, Coach Few used to hate. We'd be the number one seed. Never got to play. We always got to play in Santa Clara. Like he was right. Like we always go to San Diego. Like how come? What's the point of winning the league? So they finally like okay. They bend to them. We play the conference tournament, and obviously we're heavily favored. We beat San Diego in the semis. Then we play LMU that we beat obviously all year long, and it gets down to last possession. I think we're up 1. And they run like a triangle action, screen the screener, and we don't switch. Like it's bad. Dude gets a wide open layup and smokes it, and then Earl comes over and tips it away from him to put it back in, and then we win. That's the only play I remember. But the point is, like, if they make that, just think of the arc. You go to the NCAA tournament, you beat Gonzaga. Mm-hmm. Recruiting is totally, it all comes down to like a simple layup.
Wow.
It's crazy if you really think about it. Because a program like LMU, if they go to the NCAA tournament, then legitimately
changes their fortunes.
Has a chance after that. But then it's like, oh, nope. And then they literally after them. And,
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's because I don't remember that because that was in the midst of my career. So I don't remember.
I don't. Yeah, that's the thing is like, some people reference some Gonzaga games like we've played them before, and I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I've never watched. You know what I mean? Like
we had one. So I called the game on CBS last week with Rich Waltz, and Rajier Bolton's as fast a player as I can remember.
He's fast. Him and Woolridge are the two.
So I made a comment something along the lines of Rajier Bolton is one of the fastest Zags that I can remember, and I said Woolridge was up there, and I said Quentin Hall. Mm-hmm. Greg Heister in the middle of the game. Oh, you don't know as much about some of the guys because you were playing. No one was faster than Dimitri Goodson. I'm like, that was in the era when I was playing. So I saw him on occasion.
Yeah,
but
no, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Dimitri he played in the NFL, which is wild. That's another story that I'd like to have him on eventually. Just tell me about your playing days here. It wasn't like sour, but like. Then you go to like Baylor and you play, and then you make it to the NFL. Like that's insane.
That is.
It really is. Like,
if you had another sport, was there another sport you might have been talented?
I was terrible at everything. I was terrible at football. I sucked at baseball. I batted ninth, played right field at baseball. I had a coach that used to give me the take sign all the time, bunt. I was terrible. I hated it. I hated baseball. I was on the best team in the city. We were good. Yeah. And I was batted ninth, played right field. And I used to always just be like, I can't wait to play basketball against these kids. Like even my own teammates, like I'm going to kill these kids.
That's awesome.
Hated it. How about you? I sucked at everything else.
I was a really good baseball player.
Yeah.
I stopped playing baseball when it was 12 years old, All-Stars.
Yeah.
And I was going to miss 2 practices because I was at a basketball camp. And as a 12-year-old, to go up to a coach and say, hey, coach, I'm sorry, I'm going to miss. I was nervous as all heck, but I knew I'd rather be at basketball camp. And the coach, I remember this clearly to this day, he goes, well, I don't think you're going to play a lot then. And that was the end of my baseball career.
That's crazy.
And I would have loved to have played in high school.
Were you scared of the ball? I was. I got beamed. That's the other reason I sucked.
As soon as curveball started,
I got hit.
I would jump out of the batter's box. But I was good up until 12. I mean, whatever that means. I never played football because I was small. Soccer, I was good. But then it just, I know it's the world game. Although basketball, I think, is overtaking it or will at some point. But I just never liked running to run. So I didn't like 1-0 games.
Yeah. My football, I played 1 year in 8th grade. I was starting safety and then backup quarterback. And my only throw of my career, this is a true story, it was right fullback. It was right at fullback 15 dive, and I went to the left, panicked, threw it up in the air, pick 6 touchdown for the other team, and it was the last game of the season, and we had a shutout. No joke.
Yeah.
Only throw of my career, pick 6, and I turned the wrong way. I was supposed to eat it and fall down. Done playing football after that. I sucked at everything else. All right.
You tried to make the most of your one effort to throw.
I was supposed to hand it off.
I know, but you tried to make the most by throwing
I know.
it.
That was the only time I got the opportunity to throw the ball. Backup quarterback, 8th grade. I still have buddies that play or still keep in contact. I get reminded of that every once in a while.
I know we're diving off topic, but a great story I have for that is my brother-in-law. He played football as a freshman. Only time he ever played football. He didn't get in the entire season until the last series as a wide receiver, and they took a knee on 3 straight plays.
That's bad. That's bad. That's really bad. How do you not play as a freshman? That's crazy.
And that was the thing that I used to always tell, my in-law parents, and his parents is like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
like their freshman year, they don't even give every kid a chance to play. Yeah. Like that high school coach was that focused on winning as a freshman program. It was like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, everybody should play as a freshman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you're on the freshman team, you're going to play.
But I still give him a hard time about it to this day.
You're going to go, okay, knee.
Yeah.
Sweet. Victory formation. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, last question coming from a reader, and they say, hey, I know both you guys are golfers. It's the dog days of winter. It's January. You got to be looking forward to at some point getting out on the golf course. What's your favorite course in the Spokane area?
Wandermere Golf Course up north.
That's a good track.
Yeah, it's a great track. Bob Ross. This is one of my favorites. Got best skins game in town, Rabbit.
Really? Best skins game?
Yeah, it's the biggest men's club, I think, one in the state, I think. Yeah.
Nice.
There's a lot of gambling out there.
Well, might have to get out there at some point this summer. I know you and we played together on a number of occasions, but I like Kalispell. I happen to be a member there, but I do like Wandermere, that's for sure. So
it's the other course up north, and it's for us, non-country club members.
Oh, is that where you're going with that?
Yeah, exactly. It's for us lower class citizens.
All right. Yeah. Well, we'll get out there at both courses at some point this next upcoming summer. I know we've been saying that, but we both get busy.
Yeah, I suck at golf too, but
no, you don't.
You
hit the hell out of the ball.
I hit it good, but I didn't play very much in the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So I'm not very good, but
well, maybe we need to raffle off a listener going and playing around a golf with us.
If he likes to drink or she likes to drink, then they can come. If they don't, then we don't want them.
Sounds good. Well, I'm going to get my swing loosened up for this summer and maybe that skins game at Wandermere. But for Gonzaga Nation SI, he's Adam Morrison. I'm Dan Dickau.